My name is Nicole and I'm showing you today a soil food web lesson activity that you can do with your students. This lesson is geared towards 5th grade students who are already learning about the recycling of matter in ecosystems and the interdependent relationships of organisms, animals, and plants. It's a good way to introduce you to them to organisms in the soil, how they interact, and how to identify them. So today is not the greatest day to do this activity because the soil is wet. So if you can pick a day where the soil is going to be dry, it will be best because you're going to sift it later. But I will just walk you through the steps and show you how it's done. So I brought a few things into the field. You'll want to bring these with you, and the students, depending on how many resources you have, maybe a group of 3 or 4 students should each have these supplies. So I brought a little hand shovel. You can use a garden shovel. Also, you want to bring a Ziploc bag to collect the dirt. This would also be a good opportunity to teach students about writing field notes, so they can, this is an all-weather journal, they can write where they found the organisms, like what conditions were that day, etc., etc. And I also brought a hand lens. You can use this in the field if you want, but we'll most likely use it more, when we go back inside. So, with all of these supplies, you'll want to find an area that is off the beaten path. You do not want to start digging for organisms like near a paved pathway or a pathway that's been walked on a lot. So I went out a little ways from the path. The best thing to look for is soil that's next to a large tree, under a lot of litter accumulation. So I think this is a good spot. I'm going to bring the backpack. So the first thing you want to do is take away some of the top layer. And then you'll just want to gather a little bit of soil. Have your Ziploc handy. You want to just fill it up is the best way to ensure that you'll find some organisms. Try to get into some of the deeper layers too. Awesome. Alright, and now that you have your soil, like I mentioned, it's better if it's not wet, but this is Pacific Northwest winter, so it is wet right now. We need to zip it up, and we're going to take it inside, and we're going to sift through it and look for some organisms. Inside, and ideally you would separate the students into groups of 3 or 4 when you did the field work as well, and as a group they collect a bag of soil. And as a group, they will do this part of the work. So I have the soil here. I have a flat tray, which we can spread the soil out on. I do have a sifter. It is a pasta strainer, so I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but there are tons of different kinds of sifters that you can use. Also, I made a chart for the students to fill in. This will help them identify them. So whatever they see in the soil, they'll write what they see in words and then also draw a picture of it and try to identify it. There's a lot of good insect field guides that can help students identify them, and you can also help them identify the organisms. Also, they will have a copy of the Soil Food Web, which they have already previously seen in other lessons. This is an excellent food web that breaks down the organisms and their relationships with each other. They can have that for reference. So, soil is pretty wet. You can still just do it anyway. Honestly, I don't know if this sifter is, I think the slats are too narrow, but you can really just spread the soil around. You can use a sifter. I don't think that's a good one though. So yeah, you want to spread it around as much as you can. At first glance, you may think that there is nothing there. In fact, that's what I'm thinking right now, but I know that there are things in this soil. So the students will get to play with the soil and look around for organisms. Once they start spotting them, they can bring out their hand lens, or you can use a microscope or a magnifying glass. This is a hand lens used for jewelry making, but you can definitely, it sort of lights up the surface and you can start to see little movement. And yeah, it's a very fun activity for students to learn about the soil food web. Thank you very much.